Hello, I would like to welcome you all to the Commtel Next Level webinar. I see we have many attendees, many professionals here today from the oil and gas, power, utilities sectors. I would like to thank you all for joining us today for this live webinar. I hope that you find the next 70 minutes quite insightful. We'll have 3 sessions of 15 minutes with our expert guest speakers, followed by a 25-minute Q&A. I would like to draw your attention that during the Q&A, we will be using the Slido widget at the homepage of Commtel The Next Level. Now, to briefly introduce this session. So, cyber-physical security within critical national infrastructure is an issue of paramount importance. The cyber-physical security systems in place guard against major economic disruption and even threats to human life. Commtel Networks, together with Critical Future, collaborated together and created an exhaustive research on the current state of the industry, considering that cyber physical threats have only been growing in both scope as well as complexity. So the resulting paper, which is titled The Impact of Cyber Physical Security in CNI, shows how organizations as well as nations need to raise the game in response to these new emerging threats. The original modeling in the paper proves that the investment in cyber physical security can unlock tremendous economic value, but failure to invest and upskill could lead to major risks and potential large-scale economic consequences. Now, to begin with our session, I would like to invite Adam Riccoboni, founder and CEO of Critical Future, who will take us through the complexities of modern CNI security and his approach to the white paper. So we will be moving to Noor first. I would like to invite him. He is the co-founder and CEO of Nibble, and he will be sharing his thoughts on how AI is enhancing or can enhance CNI protection.
Hi, everybody. My name is Noor Nahas. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nibble, and I'm really excited to share with you some thoughts about the enhancement of AI to protect critical national infrastructure. So, if we look at the effects today, and let's jump right into what AI means for critical national infrastructure. Uh, for sure, without a question, the implementation of AI technologies is changing the landscape. We've got a a lot of challenges coming forward, and security and AI are the future of cybersecurity. Mitigating the breaches of risks through is a critical way to utilizing artificial intelligence to mitigate the breaches of risks in CNI. And if we take a step back and not use the word CNI, but understand what we really mean, our world functions on power stations, water distribution systems, and the paralyzation of what would happen to our economies, to our cities, if these critical systems were breached in a significant way, uh, is a more important discussion than just looking at the numbers, but looking at the impact towards lives and how do we address or protect or secure these systems that are increasingly become more digital and digital. And if you look at the challenges facing these more digital systems, where a cyber breach can lead to a significant um, disruption in the critical national infrastructure systems, and addressing, and I think Adam's going to discuss how a majority of cyber breaches begin with a physical breach. Then we can tie in the importance of managing physical security to incorporate and manage and secure cyber security as well. And when we ensure and manage cybersecurity, then we're also managing the security of our critical national infrastructure that's increasingly digital. And so, looking at How we do all of that in a ever-changing landscape that has a lot of limitation resources. So we'll jump right into it, and I'm looking forward to sharing the ideas with you all. So the idea or the let's dive into the ideas or the problems. But if we look at the number of challenges as we scale technologies, as we scale power generation, even when we talk about renewables, sustainable energy, the challenges grow too. Sustainable and renewable energy is increasingly more digital, from smart solar systems to combined cycle power plants that are all managed on integrated digital systems. The challenges of running these systems are just become even more challenging. And so we need to do more in securing them and managing them from a physical aspect, but also from a physical aspect in relation to the cyber security. And so if we look at addressing the physical approach for cyber, uh, the traditional solution, which is just throwing more people at a problem, and that's been the typical solution for us in the past, is no longer an option. Today, companies have to do more with less people. And after the pandemic, we have to do that even with a lot more restrictions. And keeping that in mind for the future, how do we manage and react and be proactive for potential, hopefully they don't come along, but potential future issues where we need to go back to the same or similar environment? We need to be able to manage challenges in a new approach. The idea is addressing a holistic approach to the security management of a facility. And that means the automated controls, the alerting safety, security, both physical and cyber. And the outcome of that, and you'll be excited to see the numbers from Adam, but it's significant in the results, both in the risks of not taking action. I think that's more important to consider today. It's not just about the savings, but it's about the risks and losses of not taking action. Where in other industries, not taking action doesn't equate to a loss, in critical national infrastructure, not taking action to secure physical security, which also ensures cyber security, is not will result in a loss, and it could even result in loss of lives. And that's why it's increasingly more and more critical that we take action and ensure that we manage them. So, what's the value of AI? Today, most of security systems are deployed with access control, CCTV cameras, video, intrusion detection. Some areas may have radar, sonar for near naval offshore, but all of this is mainly reactive. People are watching systems, they're receiving alerts, and the alerts are causing action. And I've spent a lot of time in control rooms, and if you've ever been in a control room, you've probably seen this, which is the operator desensitization. Alarms keep going off to the point that the operator is desensitized and silences the alarm. And that's in typical situations, in minor things, doors left open for too long, things encroaching. But the challenge with that is that's opportunity for any infiltrator or any malicious intent to capitalize on operator desensitization. The value of AI is moving from reactive to proactive, and enabling artificial intelligence is managing uh, the grunt work of security, looking at the alerts, categorizing the alerts, and moving. So you eliminate operator desensitization. Then going into training and tuning, where you're switching and managing the ambient behavior of an environment, whether a critical national infrastructure, to identify anomalies, to identify potential threats or risks, and then looking at the cost effectiveness of this. One of the facts you'll hear from Adam today is about the average cost of a breach. And so if you look at a average cost of a Data breach today is around $6 million. Making a good investment in the security system is a great return on investment by preventing. But there's also a hidden value. We talked about the value of not acting, which is a significant loss of revenue and or life. We talked about the cost of taking action and the return or the savings of avoiding breach. But when you deploy artificial intelligence on the security of critical national infrastructure, there's an additional hidden value, and that is the exponential return on investment of the existing systems. Every one of these assets we're talking about, whether it's power stations, water plants, whatever it may be, already has some form of security. They probably have access control systems, they have CCTV, whatever it may be. Maybe one or two of them are integrated, but the majority are siloed. They're run in independent systems. The hidden value of artificial intelligence is beyond the prevention and the proactive management of security, is also in the integration and in the additional value developed. And let me explain what I mean. Today, with an access control system, security is monitoring borders, monitoring the perimeter of a facility or the interior of a facility. But what if somebody falls? What if someone's screaming for help? That's all being managed by an operator. Today, with computer vision, you can do fall detection, you can do PPE, so risk here, avoiding, so being proactive. Somebody entering an area without personal protective equipment, it can alert. You can decide on the action of the alert. Do you want to send that individual an SMS? Do you want to send the security supervisor of the facility an email or an SMS or on a WhatsApp? Hey, someone's doing this. Or what if somebody's falling? Once again, rather than having a human watch every single camera, which is physically impossible, AI can do that. And so taking it even a step forward is the mitigation and the countermeasures. One, unfortunately, way too often scenario that we're seeing lately all over the world is active shooters. Active shooters entering into facilities. And it's a terrible scenario to plan out, but one of the ones that we looked at. And with artificial intelligence, you can really mitigate an event like that. Imagine in an active shooter scenario, it's been identified. The AI can automatically unlock doors and CC in the access control to guide all of the people to a safe area, to an evacuation route. And so in a time like that, most people are in panic. They're not thinking, so they're just trying every door. And by managing the access control, you can guide them to evacuate, while you're unknowingly to the assailant guiding them to a dead end because your doors are locked and moving them in a different way. That's just a couple of examples of moving what we call the hidden value of artificial intelligence. Safety, security, even efficiency management and optimization of the security and safety of an asset are all hidden values. The main values, of course, are the securitization of the physical asset, which should leads to a major reduction of the cybersecurity threats, with a big return on investment and a huge asset and economical impact, and lives as well, not just economical impact. So, what is the idea behind a collaboration? Companies that are experts in artificial intelligence may not necessarily know and understand security specifically, and experts in security may not have the expertise to develop artificially intelligent applications. The partnership with Commtel and Nibble was to, as we say in Arabic, leave the bread to each of the bakers, leaving the artificial intelligence to the experts in AI and the security to the experts in security, but combining these two experts to deliver a completely artificially intelligent physical security system that merges the physical and the cyber world. And so you're looking at what we believe the next level of artificial intelligence in the security world, C6 AI: command, control, computers, communication, compliance, and countermeasures. And these are the things we spoke about already: commanding and controlling different systems, computers, which is managing infrastructure and looking at cybersecurity, communication, so beyond just alerts, but how do you take action? How do you communicate across? And how do you make sure you're able to mitigate and respond to physical threats and or risks? Compliance, which is a major part as well. How do we ensure security compliance, safety compliance, to avoid and prevent the number of potentials, to reduce actual events? And then countermeasures. Countermeasures is typically a difficult word, but in this aspect, it's countermeasures to countermeasure actual events, meaning how do we respond to somebody falling? How do we lock out an intruder into a non-secured area so that they don't enter into secured areas, even if they've breached the perimeter? How do we sequester a active shooter and evacuate people into the right area for safety? Those are countermeasures. And so, with all of this put together, we look at the delivery of advanced intelligence and artificial intelligence into the physical security world, combining physical and cyber security. Thank you. Back to you, Marie.
Thank you, Noor. I would like now to invite Adam Riccoboni, founder and CEO of Critical Future, who will take us through the complexities of modern CNI security, as well as his approach to the white paper.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here with you. I'm going to present the impact of cyber physical security on critical national infrastructure. This is based on a white paper that we produced for Commtel. So my name's Adam Riccoboni. I'm the founder of Critical Future, which was founded around 2014. I'm also an author in the area of artificial intelligence. I have a book called The AI Age, and also a new book coming out next year about machine learning and mathematics. I'm also a part-time lecturer in artificial intelligence and on the advisory board for the AI Masters of some business schools. And I'm part of the all-party parliamentary committee on AI in the UK. For example, I gave evidence to UK parliamentarians on how AI can fight COVID-19. So Critical Future, we are a strategy and technology consultancy that supports many leading companies. And we have a great team, which we were able to bring together for this white paper report. We have PhD level experts in artificial intelligence. So you can see on the left-hand side here, for example, Matthew, our colleague, he's a PhD in machine learning at Harvard University. And then in the middle here, we have our great modeling team, for example, Dr. Artemis there, and also Damianos, who worked on this models for this report and this project. And on the right-hand side, our strategy team, such as Marie, who is presenting this event to you today. And all three areas come together for this research which we are presenting here. So I just wanted to start by mentioning that the world is facing many different crises at the moment, which vary by type and by impact. Of course, we have many different potential economic crises on the horizon. In Britain, where I'm located at the moment, we have a mini financial crisis because our government launched a budget which the financial markets didn't like very much, and it's caused all sorts of repercussions which are still working their way through the economy. But more generally, on a global level, we have very high inflation, we have an energy crisis, and the potential of a market crash over the next 12 months. In terms of people, people have been through a lot. There's been a pandemic, there have been lockdowns. Actually, there's been a decline in life expectancy, a significant decline in life expectancy in countries like the US. There are potential larger macro shocks, black or white swans on the horizon. For example, there could be another pandemic, there could be further wars, there could be natural disasters from climate change. So the picture is quite volatile, and organizations in this context need two things. First of all, organizational resilience, being able to prepare for crisis, simulate what could happen, and ensure that the organization has the resources to manage this crisis, and ideally even turn it into an opportunity, because there are always opportunities in crisis. And I put a quote here from General von Clausewitz, who wrote a very compelling book called On War a couple of 100 years ago, but it's still very pertinent today. And von Clausewitz said that in a crisis, doing nothing is not an option. Crisis is actually a source of opportunity, but you must act. So decisive leadership is needed in times of crisis. And today we're going to focus on one type of crisis, which is cyber physical security crises. So as critical national infrastructure is relied upon more and more digital, it's become vulnerable to attacks. For example, on the left-hand side here, we have the Colonial Pipeline network of the US, which is the largest oil pipe in the US, which was hacked by a group of hackers, potentially called DarkSide. And as a result, 45% of the supplies on the east coast of the US were disrupted. And there was a spike in gas prices. And ultimately, the hackers won. Their ransom that they demanded in cryptocurrency was paid. And later on, the US had a congressional hearing about it, but it doesn't seem that these hackers have been brought to justice either. So they're still out there able to commit further attacks. And on the right-hand side, we have the Israeli water systems, which have been cyber attacked on a number of occasions. And this has compromised and command Israel's wastewater plants, agricultural pumps, pumping systems, and sewer systems. But actually, even on the news today, on BBC News, and I'm sure many other global news sites, you can see coverage of an Australian telecommunications giant, Optus, and they were hacked. And this has been called the biggest hack in Australian history. And about 10 million customers' data, about 40% of the population have had their personal data stolen. And once again, it's a ransomware, a ransom in cryptocurrency has been demanded for this. No industry is immune from these attacks, but some industries are more targeted than others. And research shows that some of those industries within critical national infrastructure are transportation, power and utilities, petroleum, wastewater as well. Now, according to EY, many organizations still do not have enough policies to manage cybersecurity threats. Actually, if you survey CIOs, they're very confident about their capabilities in managing cyber threats. But at the same time, over 80% of organized CIOs have been attacked in the last few years, according to this research as well. And there are a number of different potential, there's a life cycle that can happen here, from sniff and exploring to tests to analysis of test results and cyber attacks improvements. Another way to look at these attacks is by target, and the most common target actually is governments now. And after that, we can see military, private, and single individuals as well. In terms of the cost of data breaches, IBM have estimated this to be around 4 million for 2021, which was a rise of 3.86 million than the previous year. And another report by Accenture and the Ponymon Institute found that the average cost of cybercrime per organization was around 13 million. And this research also found that the fastest growing type of attack is ransomware. Ransomware is now growing 59% year on year. It's estimated that around 30,000 websites are hacked every single day, and the number of malware attacks and new malware softwares is growing exponentially. There are now over 677 million malware applications. So what can organizations do about this? Well, one potential solution is in artificial intelligence. This can substantially improve cybersecurity capabilities, and this has been validated in many peer-reviewed papers. And AI solutions range from anomaly detection to more intelligent decision making right across the full spectrum of the cyber physical system. And cyber physical systems add an extra layer of complexity to the challenge of cyber security. There's a complex interaction between a heterogeneous cyber and physical components. And therefore, the defenses needed in cyber physical systems also need to be at a higher level of sophistication as well. We need to first of all consider the physical side of the cyber physical threats. And according to a report from the UK Parliament, some of the main physical threats are around climate change. I think we've all noticed changes in the weather recently. And for example, Pakistan has recently been a third underwater. A 400% increase in rainfall has seen a third of Pakistan come underwater, impacting around 33 million people. So we can expect more physical natural disasters from climate change. On the other side, in terms of terrorism, there have been also potential risks here to physical cyber systems as well. And cyber and physical security systems do not exist in a vacuum. They're highly dependent on one another. And we list here some of the common cyber physical security system threats, such as a worm, which is a self-replicating application that can spread into uninfected systems by itself without any human intervention. A Trojan, which is a type of malware that downloads itself onto a computer designed as a legitimate virus. And a virus, which is a type of malicious code or program which written into the way to alter the way a computer operates as well. Another way to think about these type of attacks is by the incident type, and they can be categorized as cyber warfare. Cyber is now a weapon of war, and we've seen that in the Ukraine war as well very recently. There is hacktivism, where unauthorized access is gained in order to further some social or political ends, such as the group Anonymous. There is cyber espionage, corporate arm of high-tech crime. It involves attacks on companies and institutions. And there is just simple cybercrime, where criminals are demanding ransom in order to return the operation of cyber physical systems. We've conducted original research as part of this project, and we've also done economic modelling on cybersecurity and critical national infrastructure. And we have three types of models that we're going to talk about now. So the first model looks at how cybersecurity impacts critical infrastructure, specifically the transport, storage, and communication industry. The second model looks at how cybersecurity impacts investments in critical infrastructure, specifically investments in energy. And the third model looks at the overall impact that cybersecurity and digital development can have on economic growth. So here is our first model. And the results of this model show that for each 1% that a country or organization improves on cybersecurity, an additional 36 billion is added to the global economy for transport, storage, and communication industry, which covers the critical national infrastructure. So just so you understand this graph, on the left-hand side is the value added, the economic value added to those industries, the left-hand axis, and the axis on the bottom is the National Cybersecurity Index. So how sophisticated, how effective cybersecurity is. And these little dots, these 125 dots, are actually countries. So you can see here a clear relationship between how well a country does in cybersecurity and how much value is added to critical national infrastructure. And we've quantified that at 36 billion, as we said, for each 1 percentage point on cyber physical security. The next original model, which we developed for this research, shows that there is going to be an increase in 1%. For every increase of 1% in cybersecurity, 16.17 billion in energy investments follows. So once again, on the left-hand side, we have here on the left-hand axis, investments, energy investments, and on the right-hand, cybersecurity effectiveness. And these dots, once again, represent 34 different countries here. And we can see the relationship. Improvements in cybersecurity lead directly to more investments in energy. The reason for that is, of course, better cybersecurity means more stability, which enables more investment to happen as well. And the third original model, which we developed for this research, has a very interesting finding, and that is that digitization alone does not lead to economic growth. So many different companies around the world, many different nations around the world have been desperately seeking digital transformation. But we can see on this model on the left, which tracks that left-hand axis is economic performance, and again, the bottom axis, the right-hand axis, is cybersecurity performance. We can see that there is a negative relationship here, that actually digitalization leads to worse performance in terms of economic value. But the second model shows that actually cybersecurity has a positive impact on the economy. So the lesson here in simple terms is that digitization alone is not enough for countries. If a country digitizes without adequate cybersecurity, actually that can lead to a drop in growth. So cybersecurity, absolutely fundamentally important to economic growth. These models have shown how important cybersecurity is to, and cyber physical security to economic growth. But how does an organization actually do something about it? Well, there's a number of different simple steps that organizations can take, as we all know: enforcing passport rules, implementing VPNs for all networks, using AI, anomaly detection, etc. But actually, in a cyber physical security system, there's a danger that all of these component parts are operating in silos. And what we need is a collective overall intelligent system to manage them. And therefore, some sort of middleman or middleware which can manage all of these systems together is essential for effective cyber physical security. And that's why CN Shield has done something very innovative and groundbreaking in developing an overall collective intelligence which can manage a complex physical cybersecurity system. So the conclusions of our research are that organizations must upgrade cyber physical defenses to deal with the growing menace of cyber physical threats, and we need an integrated intelligence system to realize economic growth. So there is definitely a growing menace in cyber-physical threats. Organizational resilience is imperative, including decisive leadership. There is a proven economic value between cybersecurity and economic growth. And as we mentioned, digitization alone is not enough. Actually, digitization alone is a risk and can lead to a fall in growth. Integration is absolutely key to defense. Artificial intelligence should be a component of that defense. And an ongoing investment is required by companies to prevent the risks of cyber attacks and to capture some of this growth that's available with effective cybersecurity. And thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to take any questions shortly at the end of this webinar.
Thank you, Adam. I would now like to invite Shri Prakash Pandey, CMD of Commtel Networks, as well as Girish Dev, Head of AI and Digital Transformation, to explain a bit more on the importance of communications infrastructure and their AI offering.
Task being automated.
Thank you, Marie. Welcome everyone to Commtel's Next Level webinar series. In the presentation just delivered by Adam, they have indicated more than $36 billion of economic value that can be unlocked through improvements in the cyber physical security for a CNI. That's a huge economic gain which a CNIs around the world globally can actually harness if the cyber physical security which they presently have is improved further. More importantly, within the same report, the white paper which was published by Critical Future, they have also highlighted that average cost of each data breach in energy sector is about $6 million. And this is potentially attributable to physical security incidences. The point which we are trying to make here is that the networks that we deploy or build for CNIs in power and oil and gas sector are captive or dedicated networks. And for somebody to disrupt its operations, it is important that they have access to the network physically present at the CNI location. Now, that is an important event wherein they can get access. And if our physical security is bolstered and boosted, such incidences can be avoided, which can potentially bring in saving of $6 million per incident. So that is a very important revelation which we actually also want to highlight from the Critical Future report, white paper which they actually published. You know that CNIs today are complex ecosystems of multiple different technologies, systems interconnected, right? This is blurring the lines between digital, physical, and biological, right? And communication is the key for operation of a CNI. It is important that the data from all these systems are processed and presented in the right manner to the right owners within the CNI. It is absolutely critical, and this entire operation is in real time, so you have to ensure that there is no latency within the data transmission, and the communication has to be seamless. It is mission critical. You have to actually ensure that the data reaches its destination every time without fail. This is a complex ecosystem that we are talking about. And to protect this, the entire data being generated and protect the CNI, it is increasingly important that a 360-degree protection to be implemented. You just can't think in today's world of doing things in silos. It has to be an integrated 360-degree protection that has to be implemented to secure a CNI from cyber physical threats. And that is the reason why we are stressing that it is vital to protect the CNI with an intelligent solution, a solution that not only works or works on one system, but gathers data from multiple different systems and then provides intelligent outcomes, intelligent actions, and prevents such data breach incidences which can actually bring a CNI down. Commtel has been implementing communication systems for CNIs for last 25 years. We have implemented security systems, safety systems, backbone communication networks for refineries, pipelines, and power grids, and multiple other CNI infrastructures. We have noted that most of the systems generate humongous data, but they are all individual silos. The data generated by the security system is part of the security system. Data generated by the safety systems is part of the safety system. The communication systems and the IoT devices interconnected and connected to the communication systems basically are not being monitored and not being there is no failure prediction or any other mechanism being implemented in today's CNIs. So we really saw a huge gap in this particular area, and the data which was being flushed out, we thought, we all say the data is the new oil, right? So we thought that we can actually bring all this data on one single information platform and process it for valuable insights and intelligence, and hence we built CN Shield. It is a unified critical communication system which brings data on one single platform from all these siloed systems which we generally deploy for our customers. And once the data is available on this particular system, we can facilitate cyber physical security for the CNIs. Now, having all this coming on one platform, will all the different kind of data that I mean to say on one platform allows us to interoperate, allows us to create intelligence out of this data, and also predict various different scenarios that can affect the CNIs, CNIs security and failure basically. So it is important that we understand this in further detail, for which Girish, my colleague, will actually explain you further the architecture and the value that CN Shield can bring for CNIs which you operate, ladies and gentlemen. Girish, can you please take this further? Thank you.
Surely. Thank you, Sri Prakash. Once again, welcome all. We all realize that over time, the technologies that underpin critical infrastructure have become more digitized and connected to enterprise IT systems and sometimes to each other, thereby creating what we call as the cyber physical systems. Now, I'll continue with this current slide where Sri Prakash left to just add more context to what we believe should be the desired cyber physical system security solution. Now, at majority of the CNIs, the cyber physical system or CPS, for sake of convenience as I speak, the CPS are composed of both legacy infrastructure which have been deployed years ago without built-in security, and new assets which are also deployed but have full vulnerability. Now, CPS by definition, as we all know, is closely coupled to its physical environment. And as mentioned earlier, physical attacks may damage or compromise the information system on the device, and cyber attacks can cause physical malfunction. Now, if we look at one of the Gartner survey, they actually published that security and risk leaders ranked IoT and cyber physical systems as the top concerns for the next 3 to 5 years. Now, within the components of security, as we all know, confidentiality, integrity, availability, and safety, while the first two have high priority on IT networks, availability and safety have dominated the security concerns for cyber physical systems. So if we look at this slide and where Sri Prakash spoke about unified critical communication, and if we look at on the left side in terms of what we have depicted as telecom safety and security devices, which is invariably what you find in all the critical national infra. Now, traditionally, these disparate communication systems have got operated and managed individually. Now, however, with the advent of industrial IoT and the inherent intelligence of the edge components, these mission critical communications have evolved as a network of networks, unifying the underlying communication systems. So, the unified communications today has moved beyond merely sharing the communication paths to actual sharing of data and content across systems. We feel the goal of any unified critical communications is to optimize and automate operations by establishing node to node connection between thousands of data generation points, all of which exchange data in real time. So, given this context for a cyber physical system security solution, we at Commtel tried answering some of these questions. Will our solution or will a solution enable assured, trusted environment, data, and outcomes? Will such a solution help protect specific organizational assets, which is people, property, operations, and environments? Will it help prioritize safety, availability, security, reliability, adaptability, and resilience besides privacy? Will it help in cutting across organizational silos? Uh, now, now there is no specific problem statement which was put across to us, but having been in this domain, we realize the challenge which critical national infras face today, and if we were to approach them with a solution, we did have to answer these questions first. And interestingly, again, why I say interestingly, because while the security of cyber physical systems has been a new area, but Gartner, in one of its study, actually predicts that by 2024, 80% of the critical infrastructure organizations will abandon their existing siloed security solutions providers by actually adopting hyperconverged solutions to bridge the cyber physical IT risks. And it's also predicted that through 2026, less than 30% of US critical infrastructure owners and operators will actually meet the newly mandated government security requirements for cyber physical systems. Now, that is where now, when I actually move to the next slide, uh, it would be understood as to how we have approached the whole solution. And the architecture is just an overview, just to give you a flavor as to how the security solution works at the back. So, however complex it may look, but for the user or the security operator or the CNI, the user dashboards and other things make it simpler. But then, if I just take you all through these, through the architecture, and given the context, what I just gave a few seconds back. So we have, of course, the data ingestion, data conditioning, but most important is the integration capability from all the traditional disparate systems, which I just mentioned. And then, of course, the automation capabilities, because without that layer being there to jump into intelligence and analytics may not do full justice, and it may not necessarily help the CNI. So you see the analytics portion, you see the deep automation, and of course, the moment we say intelligence, that's where the AI and the machine learning capabilities of the solution kicks in. And then, of course, the user dashboard, which gets customized depending on the hierarchy which is accessing it. So there can be internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, and especially with the CNI, you do have a lot of interest coming in from the sovereign state itself as to what is happening at a CNI, just in case if any of the CNIs have faced any incidents in the past. So this architecture, if you look at it, how we have approached again, as I quickly take you through uh, in a more simpler fashion and not necessarily the technical architecture, which was there in the previous slide. So if you look at it, so what have we done? We have first addressed the key portion of integration, because when we talk of disparate systems, humongous amount of data coming in, and with the myriad kind of systems devices which keeps getting added on to the legacy infrastructure of a CNI, integration becomes the challenge. So that's a piece which has been addressed, and with all the APIs and protocols which are now available, that is something which we worked over the past 2.5 years and cracked that piece. And then of course automation. So what have we brought in automation is automatic detection of any new asset which gets added, besides the subsystem integration, and then of course any of the routine tasks being automated, and then the intelligence piece. Now here, if we look at it, so when we talk of cyber physical security, and then we talk of intelligence, finally the solution which is integrating data from all these thousands of devices, new, old, all of them, it has to have a KRA, a deliverable, an outcome. And then within that, if we look at it, what is it that we would like to take care of? So one is the overall perimeter, the facility itself, then the human assets, then of course the mission critical systems which keep the facility running and which keep the human assets safe, or the overall facility itself safe. Now, which is where we all again, as industry personnel, realize that security is binary. So it can be strong, but it can also be brittle, as they say. So to be partially secure is being insecure. But however, we feel, and every expert would acknowledge that resilience, however, exists on a spectrum. So an organization which is, and especially a critical national infra, can be resilient to a certain degree, even though not necessarily 100%. So while threats are real and every day there is an attempt to harm a CNI and thereby the citizenry of any nation, uh, the time for preparations is before and not necessarily during an incident. And which is why we believe that for any given level of security, there is always a finite risk of breach of that very security. So it is critical that the critical national infrastructures, the CNIs, consider their ability to maintain the continuity in their service, while concurrently responding to a threat, and minimizing the effect of a security breach is of paramount importance. Which is why when we talk about our solution, it finally had to have an outcome or an enabler for the CNI. So if I can take you through the next slide. So here, if you look at it, we have tried to take care of the facility, we have tried to take care of the human assets, and we have tried to take care of the mission critical systems. And when I say take care, what does it imply? And if I can just take you back to those previous two slides, we are talking of integrating data from all those disparate systems, and then eventually giving out a facility threat index, combining all those values, parameters. While we do not control the processes of through any of those systems, but the alerts, notifications, and the intelligence by way of patterns which our system creates, where do you stand in terms of the threat exposure at your facility level. So that's one. And then, of course, the most crucial bit within a facility, which is the human asset. So, not only meeting the HSE standards and compliance, but through a combination of all that analytics which comes through computer vision and sensorization, the safety performance index, so the health of the facility through its employees, and then of course the surety, the assurance to the CNI by way of failure prediction whether any of its mission critical systems can have a failure. Now, this encompasses the entire security piece for any CNI that they would want to have a bird's eye view or be in control of. So that's what we have achieved over the past 2.5 years. And most importantly, this comes from our domain expertise of over 2.5 decades, where we have been dedicatedly catering to the critical national infra. And it is with that understanding that we had this collaboration with Critical Future to have a global perspective on how crucial this impact of cyber physical security on CNI is. I thank you for your time, for patiently going through these slides with us. And I will now hand it over to Marie to actually proceed with the rest of the webinar schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiprakash and Girish. We will now open the Q&A session. Please kindly use Slido widget on the Commtel Next Level website. The speakers will be able to see your questions on the screen and will also then respond appropriately. Right, so yeah, let's start with the first question.
Okay, yes, this is a question for me, which is we've mentioned that 36 billion in economic value can be unlocked through improvements in physical cybersecurity in critical national infrastructure. What is the expected investment from CNIs in cyber physical security improvements to achieve this economic value? Well, our model takes it around what companies currently spend, which is 3 to 10% of their overall IT budget on cybersecurity. But actually, experts suggest, and we would agree, that this should be increased to around 15%. So organizations should be looking to spend around 15% of their overall IT budget on cyber physical security.
Great, on to the next question.
Okay, so I think this is for me. How does Commtel's CN Shield differ from the AI solutions from OEMs in the industry? Okay, that's a great question. I just want to set the premise first. I mean, the CN Shield was developed with a very particular aspect in mind, and that was we being OEM agnostic or system agnostic. The reason being, we actually are complementing the systems which OEM have installed or provided or built, right? So ours is an add-on layer on top of the existing OEM systems sitting there. So we are primarily a complementing, product than a competing product, I would say. So we have built an open system. We have built a system which can interface with multiple different OEM products and technologies, and that is the reason why I would say we're not striving to differ from any OEM manufacturers, but rather complement and build upon what they already have. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Sri Prakash. And on to the next question, please. For Girish.
Hi. So the question is, inputs like diagnostics or environmental data may not be available. Oh, yes. So, in fact, that is exactly what we were trying to address through our slide when we said, when we talked about our integration capabilities. And specific to diagnostics and environmental data, we are talking of sensorization, which of course has already been the case with many CNIs. But we are now trying to say, or rather identify some of the universal truths, which is if a CNI is to exactly know where they stand, then it is those many data points. So this is something which we are already taking care as part of our bundled solution, where besides the AI platform or software, more importantly, to have enough data to have predictions work the way they are expected to. So sensorization is part of the solution itself.
Thank you, Girish. The next question, please. For Girish again.
Data from such solutions accepted by insurance industry as a credible data to accept the source of damage. Uh, of course, while in our practical experience, we have not yet come across where our solution has what you say, or rather, we have not been let known that our solution is being treated as the single source of truth. But I would, so hypothetically answering, yes, it would be. It would be for the simple reason that insurance companies would always look at the data integrity, provenance, and as I said, the single version of truth, which provides that ideal component within a trigger. And when it is combined with other factors, it would help the insured. So, summarily, yes.
Thank you, Girish. And to the next question, please. For Girish again.
The solutions follow the 27th protocols and gets. Uh, I'll try to answer this in two parts. Whether our solution helps them get, or any solution of this nature, whether it helps them get ISO certification, not sure, frankly, because that's not what we are aiming at. We are talking of existing infrastructure at the CNIs, which means that they are already meeting standards. We are only talking of aggravated threats to them. It's not as if CNIs don't have a setup or don't have a system. Like say, if we look at the oil and gas industry, there are stringent standards around everything. So, given that there is already a baseline and they have all those standards in place, they also have certifications in place. What this enables is it just augments their capability to monitor and thereby have, as I repeat, a single source of truth, which would just help them in good, which would keep them in good stead when it comes to successive audits or to maintain those certifications. I would put it that way.
Thank you, Girish. And the next question for Adam.
Yes. How can you quantify only digitization lower to grown when in India only digital payments have provided substantial growth? Well, it is unfortunately true. Digitization alone does not lead to economic growth. We've proved this across 34 different countries, at least, that where there is digitization alone, this leaves open the threat of cyber attacks, which can cause disruption. Let's imagine in the case of those digital payments, there was digitization without sufficient protection. That would then cause disruptions to payments, and disruptions to payments would harm economic growth. And so therefore, you can actually see it quite clearly in that case, that whenever there is digitization alone without sufficient defense in cyber physical security, it can harm growth. And conversely, actually, when there is investment in cybersecurity or cyber physical security, it leads to economic growth. And this has been proved out in the models. That data is available. It's much more broadly presented in the white paper, which you can get from Commtel's website or from our website as well, Critical Future.
Thank you, Adam. And the following question for Girish and Shri Prakash, please.
Okay. Should I take that?
Yes, Krish, proceed, please.
Uh, so, uh, so when we talk of CNIs in some of the geographies like India, it's in India we don't call it as CNI, but critical information infrastructure, because it's the information which is residing or which is getting managed in the CNIs, which is what is defined for protection. And that of course includes banking, insurance, financial services, and then a host of other sectors. Where we are coming from is from our domain expertise, which is on the oil and gas, power and transportation. So, which is why our solution has been more directed towards that and not necessarily a services or any other business infrastructure, so to say. But if we look at the platform, which is where our strategic partner Nibbles platform comes in, and some of the fundamental principles which we use around data integration and other stuff, it can be explored. But of course, from our business perspective or from contributing value to our existing customers, we have not gone that route.
Thank you, Girish. And to the next question, please, for Girish and Shri Prakash.
Okay, I can take this, Girish.
Yes.
So basically, the platform which we have built or used or partnered with, Nibbles platform is quite a versatile platform in its own right. It has native interfaces to work with legacy, technologies, and also, has amazing, capabilities to integrate so smoothly with the latest technologies as well. And on top of it, you have AI. So what we have done together, along with Nibble, is that build, build this platform where we have integrated multiple different systems already, and we have integrated like the legacy IOs, PLCs, if you may say, Modbus, SNMP, and those kind of protocols, to the latest and the greatest available, integrating through the APIs, of the systems available or made available by the OEMs. So, point which I'm trying to make here is that it is quite a versatile platform and has a wide range of options for integration. While there might be some systems which are closed, so there can be other ways to integrate or bring the data, using different technologies. So, it is like a quite an open system on which the interfacing of existing and old systems can easily happen. And we have done that, and we've proven it and tested it. We already have a beta system being deployed as we speak here in UAE, and that should be up and running for gathering all the data in next 2 to 3 weeks, as such, where we have used some legacy interfaces with the latest technologies as well. So it can coexist without any challenges on the platform. And thanks to Nibble for building a versatile platform which we are making use for CN Shield. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Prakash. And we can move to the following question for Girish.
Okay. In case of an actual threat damage, how can CN Shield help? In fact, that is the precise selling point of a solution like CN Shield, because and it's important to step back and understand the background, or rather, what we have been discussing over the past 40 minutes. So we are talking of critical national infra being able to react, be proactive, and besides being proactive, being able to react at the right time when the threat is emanating. And which is where, if we go back to the outcomes from the solution, or rather what we enable a CNI on the facility threat index, the safety performance index, and the failure prediction index, it is precisely that ability which is given to a CNI, because they are able to predict, one, be aware that they are exposed to this threat and whether they would like to take a counter action or not. It is up to them how they assess that threat. The system will give them as to where they stand. And then, of course, the system also have the ability, if they have to automate any kind of a countermeasure. For example, in some cases, it is as simple as saying that they find something on the perimeter and it is a long perimeter. It is late in the night and they cannot immediately rush a person. Can they trigger a drone? And the drone sends back the appropriate images, video, etc., for the security operator to then decide. So that is precisely what we have tried to take care through the solution. So yes, it would help them prepare for a threat.
Girish, we can add one more point. Looking at, if you see when Adam presented, his finding, and through his research, he's very clearly indicated through his research that the systems have to be integrated, they have to be interoperable, and there has to be a lot of actions which can work inter and intra systems, right, in an autonomous manner. And that is what is being enabled using CN Shield, right? So we are actually doing that.
Yes, yes.
Great, thank you both. And let's move to the next question for Adam.
How do we factor in increasing complexities in CNI cybersecurity in our model? First thing to say is that the more complex cyber physical security gets, the more necessary it is for enhanced defenses and this holistic, intelligent decision-making system, which we've been describing. But we factor it into our model because our model takes account of historical data, and there is a growth of complexity in CNI, cyber physical security risks, in historical data. And so we capture that complexity historically and we project it into the future.
Thank you, Adam. And to the next question for Girish, please.
Yeah, sure. This is I'll just refer to what Noor had briefly mentioned in terms of how the solution tries to address the compliance requirement or the regulatory standards. Because again, we need to remember that we are talking of critical national infra which have been there for decades already, and that is why we are talking of legacy infrastructure also being there. It's not their wish to continue with those legacy infra, but you just can't dismantle a running operation, so you kept adding things. So to that extent, when we say they are already at a certain compliance level, or they may be fully compliant also, but there is nothing which is affordable to them to slip up on their mandatory requirements or compliance, including, like, say, for example, the HSE standards, etc. So what does our system do? Our solution, what is it doing? One, it is ensuring that all the disparate systems which are there, from there we are collating everything and giving a unified dashboard. We are not changing anything. We are not controlling any of their existing processes, which means that if they are compliant, that compliance continues. If they have to meet a standard or a requirement, they have to meet it. It is not that our solution is the compliance. Our solution enables them to be better compliant, because the provenance of truth, as they say, where in all regulatory standards, in audits, you require it. This solution provides that ability with the CNI. Specific to geographies, as we approach the customers, we will have to ensure that if there is any nuance which we have to deal with, which may exist only in, say, Australia but not in US, that again, this system is quite agnostic to it, because which means that there has to be a base system which is meeting that compliance standard in Australia, and if I need to pull some value, the solution does that.
Thank you, Girish. And let's move on to the last question for today for Shri Prakash.
Okay, what is the CN Shield's promise? I think the CN Shield's promise is, as Girish mentioned in his presentation, right? We're trying to articulate three very clear value adds or outcomes for our customers. We are saying that we will secure your facility and provide you a one single indicator which says how secure your facility is. We will also provide you with the safety prediction index, or an index that shows how safe the human capital or human assets within your organization are, basically. And third is the entire communications and IoT and the systems infrastructure, servers and all other hardware and software running on your network, giving that data, how healthy they are. So we are articulating it in three clear deliverables: safety prediction index, facility threat index, and surety, which is failure prediction index. So I think these are the three clear value adds which an organization can get from integrating all their systems on one platform and making it simple, so that machine does most of the work and only requests your attention in case of a situation that needs your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Prakash. I think just to note, for unanswered questions, we will have speakers address those individually at your registered address. And now I will give the floor to Girish for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Mari. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Sri Prakash. So I just noted some points from what Adam spoke, Noor spoke, and Sri Prakash also elaborated. If we look at it, and especially given the increased focus in all geographies about the increased threats which CNIs are exposed to, so few things. One, incidents like last year's ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline demonstrate that CNIs or nations can no longer treat something exclusively as a cyber or a physical threat. So everything is potentially a hybrid incident with very real, tangible impacts on the citizen and the economy. And we know that when it comes to critical infrastructure, there will always be threats that we cannot prevent tomorrow. And so we need to be building that resilience. We, as in the CNIs, are building that resilience today. And then from what Noor said, if there is to be a key takeaway, one, AI, of course, is an inspiring technology, while as much as it is a cliche statement. But then we will not be able to defend against AI-enabled threats, which is what we see in the cyberspace more specifically. We cannot face them without ubiquitous AI capabilities. That's a takeaway which we got from Noor's presentation. So AI technologies will be a source of enormous power for organizations, including CNIs, and countries which harness them. Then, from what Sri Prakash spoke about, if I try to summarize them, and the key takeaway is that CNIs have invested in new technologies, be it sensors, be it valves, for their immediate operational needs. And they have ended up building a system from disparate parts that, if we look back, that were never originally intended to work together. So even if we build an autonomous or a semi-autonomous architecture, the one which is built from unrelated parts will inevitably be prone to blind spots. So which is where a solution like what we just discussed will have to be there, and it's not just our solution. So we believe that all of us, the industry, the CNIs, the sovereign states, and all stakeholders will have to drive new practical solutions to the full spectrum of risks which a country through its CNI faces. And as Adam mentioned, from extreme weather events to cyber intrusions to physical attacks. And with that, I would like to once again thank all of you for being there patiently with us. And before I close, just two things. One, of course, I just get reminded from something which I read very recently of what Thomas Edison said of electricity, which actually encapsulates the AI future now. It is a field of fields. It holds the secrets which will reorganize the life of the world. And as we close and we next meet during our next webinar, we would just have a video played, and then it can. That's the end of this webinar. Thank you. Thank you so much.